A&M, which is Arts Accessibility Network Manitoba, which is where I'm sitting, is located on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. We note that Treaty 3 is where Winnipeg...
Sasha, you're going to have to slow down just a little bit. I can't overspell that fast.
Now Janelle's phone is going off.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, you can just...
Can you guys hear that?
No.
Okay, good. We note that Treaty 3 is where Winnipeg receives its water supply and that most of our electricity is taken from Treaty 5. We aim to move forward in solidarity with Indigenous people to address the continued harm perpetrated by colonialism. Disability justice must take into account experiences of ableism that intersect with racism, sexism, ageism, sizeism, queer and transphobia, settler colonialism, and white supremacy. We try to learn from systems of oppression and movements of resistance and how they implicate us. We believe all people have a right to participate in, inform, and lead arts and culture. My name is Sasha Koplo. I'm going to be facilitating today, and I'm a practicing artist living with a disability, and I work part-time here at A&M. I'm the programming assistant. And I just want to give a really big thanks to Creative Manitoba for putting this together, especially to Kara for all her work. And thank you to Janelle, who's just in the hallway. In case there's more technical difficulties, she can swoop in and be a hero. If you need a break, feel free to put it in the chat or just to let us know somehow, and that's fine. And as you mentioned, please speak slowly and clearly for the translation. We've got about an hour for this info session. We have with us Martine Friesen from MAC and Dominic Lloyd from WAC. And we're going to start off with Martine. And Martine is the program consultant at Manitoba Arts Council, where she has worked for the last 15 years. Prior to joining the MAC team, she studied classical piano and worked as a professional actor, producer, writer, and teacher. As MAC's accessibility coordinator, Martine works to make sure all Manitobans can access MAC's grants and services. So Martine, take it away.
Thank you so much, Sasha. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint here that I'm going to take you through. Just let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. I just want to move this over here. Okay. So yes, my name is Martine Friesen. I'm a program consultant at MAC. Today's presentation, I'll be discussing who can apply for MAC grants. I'm going to go over a few of our grant programs, review how to apply, and what accessibility tools and financial supports we offer. Most of the photos in this presentation were submitted in final reports by MAC-funded artists whose work deals with themes of disability and the body, or projects by deaf and disability arts organizations. The photo on this slide is of a volunteer for Art Beat Studio with brown hair, wearing a denim shirt and holding up a level on top of a hanging painting of butterflies and plants. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Manitoba Arts Council. The photo on this slide is of actor Debbie Patterson in the play Shakespeare's Will, presented by Shakespeare in the Ruins in 2021. She's holding up a small figure of a bird over a table that represents a landscape. So the Manitoba Arts Council is an independent agency that receives funding from the provincial government. We fund the creation and sharing of arts and culture for the benefit of all Manitobans. We operate in both official languages, and funding decisions are made through a peer assessment process. So for most of our grants, MAC staff does not decide who gets funded. This means that applications are reviewed and assessed by other artists and arts professionals that are paid by MAC to make funding decisions. MAC funds individuals, groups, and organizations, but for today's presentation, I'm going to focus on individuals and groups. So now let's take a look at the full list of grants currently available through the Manitoba Arts Council. There are 14 different grants in total, and they are organized into 6 streams based on the activity of the projects they fund. Your eligibility to these grants will depend on several factors. Today, I'm just going to focus on 4 specific grants: Create, Artists and Communities, Travel Professional Development, and Present. So let's look at some of the most popular grants for individuals and artistic groups, starting with the Create grant. The Create grant supports the creation of new work or development of works in progress across all artistic disciplines. Examples of projects that may be funded by this grant include creating a series of paintings, writing a novel or a collection of poems, composing a music score, choreographing a performance, developing a screenplay, or participating in a self-directed residency. The deadline for Create is February 15th and October 10th. Emerging artists are eligible to receive up to $7,500, and established artists are eligible to receive up to $15,000. This can go towards material costs, living expenses, and other direct costs related to the project. The photo on this slide and the last slide is of Kristen Nelson sitting in front of a loom on a wood bridge over a river in Riding Mountain National Park, where she was an artist in residence. Next up, the Share Artists and Communities grant. This grant supports applicants that face barriers or serve a community that faces barriers to accessing artistic opportunities. Barriers may include being located outside of Winnipeg or being part of a specific population that has been historically underserved based on ability, age, culture, economy, gender, geography, or sexual orientation. Examples of projects which may be funded through this grant include creating artwork, producing a live event, doing a workshop, curating an exhibition or art show, hosting a gathering. The deadlines for Share Artists and Communities are January 30th, May 15th, and September 15th. Small-scale projects are eligible to receive up to $5,000, while large-scale projects can receive up to $15,000. The photo on the last 2 slides is of Susan Aiden Abbott and her dog doing a performance piece. She is crouching next to a figure wearing a pig mask who is laying on a floor, while a video of someone else wearing a pig mask is projected on the wall next to them. This was part of the exhibition Cryptic, presented at the Art Gallery of Southwestern Manitoba in partnership with the Arts and Accessibility Network. Next up, the Learn Travel Professional Development Grant. It supports the development of an artist's practice or career. Examples of projects funded through this grant include attending workshops, taking specialized training, working with a mentor, attending conferences, and travel costs for arts opportunities. Only individuals can apply for this grant. The deadline is every 6 weeks. The grant is up to a maximum of $1,000 and can cover course fees, travel, per diem, accommodation, and other related costs. The photo on this slide is of a sound sculpture by Erica Lincoln that is a mass suspended in the air between spools of thread above a computer and other hardware. Where the Create grant supports the creation of artistic work, the Share Present grant supports the presentation and a publication of that work. Examples of projects that may be funded through this grant include concerts, arts exhibitions, play or dance presentations, and festivals. The deadlines for the Share Present grant are February 25th and September 10th. Applicants can receive up to $15,000 for this grant, and it can be used towards presentation and exhibition costs. The photo on this slide is of a performer, and his name is, sorry, I know his name, Dirksen. Oh, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. I did have his Jim. Yes, thank you. Jim Dirksen, who passed away recently. It was a big loss for the community. So yes, in one of Sick and Twisted Theater's cabarets, the person is bearded, and Jim is bearded and sitting in a wheelchair with tan-colored translucent fabric draped over them. Okay, so if any of these grants seem like they might be a good fit for your project, we're going to walk you through how to apply. This slide shows a photograph of 6 dancers in a dance studio with gray floors, white walls, ballet bars along the back, and many colorful posters of dance events on the walls. The dancers are in a line and all jumping at the same time. So there are 2 ways to apply for grants at the Manitoba Arts Council. The first way is by using MAC's online application system, which we call Manipogo. The second way is by using a paper or PDF application. People may choose to work on paper or a PDF application for a number of different reasons. If this sounds like the best option for you, you can ask MAC staff to send you an application, or you can download a copy on the grants webpage. But for today's presentation, we'll be focusing on the steps to apply using Manipogo. The first step is to create a profile in Manipogo. To do that, visit www.manipogo.ca. And if you're a new client, click on the yellow Register Here button. You'll be asked to answer our short questionnaire and provide us with your contact information. You'll then be asked to upload your current artistic resume or group history, and you have the option of filling out our voluntary information form. At this point, you'll submit your profile, and MAC staff will need to approve it. And this process can take up to 5 days. MAC has several different applicant types that we fund. For today's presentation, we will focus on 5 of them: professional artist, arts cultural professional, Indigenous knowledge keeper, student of the arts, and professional arts group. So I'm just going to quickly review these now. A professional artist is either an emerging artist or an established artist, and they have a history of public presentation. An arts cultural professional works in the arts, but not as an artist. So an example of that might be an arts administrator or a technician or an editor. Indigenous knowledge keepers are Indigenous applicants that hold knowledge of traditional practices and work in that area in the Indigenous culture. Students of the arts are over the ages of 18 and are pursuing a career in the arts through post-secondary training of some kind. And a professional arts group is a group of 2 or more professional artists, the majority of whom have to live in Manitoba, who do projects together. Okay, so once your profile is approved, you can start drafting your application. You'll find the grant you're looking for under the heading Upcoming Deadlines. We recommend that you start your application well ahead of the deadline. When writing your application, be clear, use plain language, and avoid repetition. Also, write in the first person and check for spelling or grammatical errors. And give it to a friend to read over. It's also important to review the assessment questions provided at the end of our grant guidelines. These are the questions assessors will use to score your application. We highly recommend you speak with a MAC program consultant before you start working on any applications. It's a good opportunity to discuss your project, what grants are available to you, review your ideas, and ask questions. Program consultants can also review your application before you submit it. You can get in contact with a MAC program consultant either by calling our help desk or visiting our website. We'll provide some contact details at the end of this presentation. The photo on this slide is of 3 MAC program consultants, Cheryl Mickey, Tracy Longbottom, and Marion Butler. You'll submit your application through Manipogo. Online applications are due before 11:59 p.m. on the deadline day. Or if you're submitting a paper application, it must be sent and date stamped by the day of the deadline. If you need more time to finish your application, you can automatically give yourself an additional 5 days to submit your application by clicking the Extend the Deadline by 5 days button on the bottom right-hand corner of the application. This is a pilot project that we are currently testing in response to feedback we have received from applicants. Once submitted, your application will then be reviewed, assessed by a committee composed of fellow artists and arts professionals through our peer assessment process. You should hear back from MAC whether your application is successful or not, usually within 3 months. If you don't get a grant, if you do get a grant, congratulations, you'll need to complete a funding agreement and your payment will arrive as a check in the mail. Once your project is finished, you'll need to submit a final report to us within 18 months of being awarded. If you do not receive a grant, you can always call us to receive feedback from the assessors. You can consider maybe reworking your application and resubmitting it to the next deadline. Please remember that this is a competitive process, so don't be discouraged. Okay, so now let's review the accessibility funds available at MAC. MAC provides funds to contribute to costs for disability-related supports and services. The photo on this slide is a work by artist Yvette Senarini depicting cutouts of deer walking in the forest at night, collaged with gears and other mechanical pieces. MAC is committed to supporting arts and culture for all Manitobans, and therefore we value equity in our funding policies. You can find our accessibility plan on our website at www.artscouncil.mb.ca. You may be eligible for funds and for disability-related supports and services to create a profile in Manipogo, to write an application, to complete your awarded project, or to submit your final report. If you need help using Manipogo, you can request assistance from a service provider to help you create your profile, write a grant application, and submit your final report. MAC will provide the following funds for these services. For profile assistance, up to a maximum of $150. For application assistance, up to a maximum of $700. And for final report assistance, up to a maximum of $200. The process for applying for assistance for the granting process is as follows. Approach a service provider, get a quote from them. Fill out a request form, and it's available on the MAC website. Submit the form and your quote to MAC Help Desk. Complete and submit your profile application or final report. And then either you or your service provider sends an invoice to MAC, and then MAC pays the service provider. I'm also going to say, and this is not, I'm sorry to the interpreter, this is not part of the text that was sent to her. At any time, if you're confused about this or you want to talk to someone, please just always call the Manitoba Arts Council, call Help Desk, and we can talk you through the process. This isn't meant to be just fill out a form. Like we are human beings that want to help you. If you require assistance to speak with somebody at MAC, we can make an arrangement to have an interpreter there or any other support that you need. So just keep that in mind as I'm going through this. You can also apply for financial assistance to help cover the costs of disability-related supports and services necessary to complete your project. So these funds are available if you are deaf or living with a disability or represent a deaf and disability arts and cultural group. So funding is available up to a maximum of $2,000, and this can be paid either to you, the applicant, or to a service provider. And the process to apply for assistance for awarded projects is almost identical to applying for funds for the grant process. Approach your service provider for a quote, fill out the request form, submit your form and your quote to the MAC Help Desk, and then MAC will notify you if your request is approved. If your grant, so this is for funding for grants that you have already received. So if your grant has already been awarded, you will be notified within 2 weeks of submitting your accessibility funding form, whether you're successful or not. If your grant hasn't yet been awarded, you will be notified within 2 weeks of being awarded that grant. Unfortunately, if your grant is declined, you will not receive the financial assistance. Payment can be made either to you or your service provider. Payment, these funds are available on a first come, first served basis. If money does run out, we will be posting this on our website. So that's another reason why we encourage you to contact MAC to speak about accessibility funding to make sure that there is still funding available. So what kinds of things are eligible? You can apply for sign language interpretation, personal attendants, support workers, guides and reader fees, transcription services, rental of specialized equipment or vehicles, special accommodation, and travel costs. What's not available? Well, anything you're already receiving funding for and anything not tied to the activity you are applying for. All accessibility funding requests will be reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis by MAC staff based on the following criteria: a reasonable budget and the availability of our funds. And like I said, if funds run out, a notification will be placed on the MAC website. So here is some contact information for the MAC Help Desk. That's all over our website as well. And here is the contact information for both myself and my colleague Dee Tompkins, who runs the Artist in Communities grant program. We'd be happy to chat with you at any time, set up a time for a consultation. Basically, that's it. This last slide has a painting by Ryan Smolik entitled Dream Scene, depicting a vibrant Technicolor portrayal of two royal-looking people riding behind a piano on wheels pulled by two horses. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned a little bit more about MAC, our grant system, and the application process. And I think I'll turn it over to Dom now. And let me see, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Martine. So up next is Dominic Lloyd, and he's from WAC. He's originally from the Yukon Territory. Throughout his career, he has served on numerous arts and community boards, been a juror and advisor for agencies across the country, and presented at conferences in Canada and Australia. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Canadian History and Political Science from Simon Fraser University, and has been in his current role with WAC since 2011. And Kara has notified me that when she got booted out because her internet fell, there are a bunch of people in the waiting room and they have been lost. So that's unfortunate.
Oh dear.
Still got Morgan. So yay, Morgan. Okay, take it away, Dominic.
Thank you so much, Sasha. And thanks, Martine, for going first. And hi, Morgan. It's nice to be with you today as well. So this is kind of like your own private tutorial on funding opportunities available here. I have a bit of an overview of what the Winnipeg Arts Council is, and I thought maybe what I would do is just go through that sort of quickly-ish, and there are a lot of similarities to what we do and the presentation that Martine just gave. So there are, we have a lot of things that we do in common. We have a lot of people and organizations that we serve in common. We have programs that look very similar. The main difference, of course, is that we, being the Winnipeg Arts Council, are focused uniquely on individuals and organizations who reside and are active within the city of Winnipeg. So where Martine has more of a provincial mandate, we stop at the perimeter, to put it bluntly. But maybe what I'll do is I'll just bring up my my PowerPoint so you can see a little bit about what we're doing here at the old Winnipeg Arts Council, and hopefully I can make this work. This is an image of Old Market Square during Nuit Blanche with the cube stage lit at the top, and an installation that I can't remember the name of, but is seesaws that light up and play music as the public rides on them. And that was from a few years ago. So essentially what we are at the Winnipeg Arts Council is an agency that operates at arm's length, carries out the city's arts and cultural funding programs. We advise the city on cultural matters, and we manage the public art program for the city of Winnipeg. Really, the three main things that we do is we give out grants to artists and arts organizations. We engage in arts development opportunities and programs that put members of the public in contact with arts experiences. And as I just said, we manage public art. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of funding that we're dealing with, we had, I haven't updated the 2022 numbers yet, but we had a request of $4.4 million in 21, and we awarded almost $3.9 million of funding to 169 different individuals and organizations throughout the city of Winnipeg. Much like what Martine said, who can get a grant is organizations whose primary mandate and core activity is the arts, and that is big institutional organizations to small theater companies and music presenters and artist-run centers, and individuals and collectives who are dedicated to the professional practice of art. And again, that we have a similar definition of what constitutes a professional artist, which is somebody who is devoting a considerable amount of time to their practice and the development of their practice and creation, and who has a history of presentation or community affirmation. I won't dwell too much on organizations, but we support just under 70 in the city on multi-year agreements. So those are organizations who have ongoing programming and are supported on an ongoing basis. Project grants support emerging arts and collectives for one-time events and programs. So those are more people who are coming together to do something, or who may not be operating all the time, but can still access funding and support to carry out their projects. What usually is most pertinent to people in these types of workshops are the grants for individuals. And we have two programs. One is called our Individual Artist Grant, and that supports any form of creation, production, research in any discipline in the arts for Winnipeg artists. The Professional Development Program supports opportunities for artists and arts administrators to develop their skill set, to receive training, to attend residencies, to travel to places where their work is being exhibited. And that's really the extent of the programs that we have here at WAC. And just to give you an idea of some of the other things that we do, we manage the Poet Laureate program for the city of Winnipeg. We are heavily involved in Jane's Walk and Nuit Blanche. And we run some other programs, such as a concert series called Mass Appeal, and the Urban Idea Center, which is our way of connecting the ideas of the arts to the actual physical built form of the city. We also host the Mayor's Luncheon for the Arts every year, which is coming up on Thursday, June the 1st. If you don't have a ticket, you might want to buy one. That's a wonderful celebration of all things artistic happening in Winnipeg. We present awards for achievement to Winnipeg artists and arts supporters. And last year's Making a Difference Award was given to the founder of AANM, Susan Lambert. And I think the whole AANM team was there. It was wonderful to see. We produce a weekly listing of all the events that are happening in the arts in Winnipeg. We have a directory that Winnipeg artists can put their information in so people can look up if they need to find a sculptor or a filmmaker. And we do research about the impact of the arts, the economic, the social impact of the arts in our city. We also manage the public art program for the city. That's my colleague, Tamara Ray, who does that. And that is large-scale sculptural commissions. It also involves residencies in city-owned facilities. It is temporary installations and projects, and we run a full slate of public art tours throughout the city, usually in the summer, but also some off-season ones as well. And that is the short version of what the Winnipeg Arts Council is. So in terms of applying for our grants, it's very similar. And I thought, it's similar, but we have sort of different processes. But some of the things that Martine said, which are really key, are that every program has some guidelines and some criteria, and those are always the first places to go. If you're looking on the web for something, you'll see, I'm gonna do another share here real quick. Am I? I think I am. There it is. For example, on our website, this is the individual artist grant program. So it's a pretty boring looking document, but it will tell you everything you need to know. Who's eligible, what types of expenses are eligible, what the amounts are that you can apply for if you are, in our case, a mid-career or established artist or an emerging artist. There's a little bit here, and I'll talk about it afterwards, about accessibility costs. That artists who are deaf, living with disabilities or mental illness can be eligible for support for some additional costs. Thing about grant guidelines, it will also tell you who's not eligible and what you can't apply for. You know, and it goes on and on and on. And like I say, it's about 7 pages of text here. I'm going to take it off the screen now. But that's always the best place to start, is by reading that. And then number 2 is to pick up the phone and give me a call, or give Martine a call, or whoever's name happens to be on that document. And because that's what we do. We, our job is to answer those questions and to facilitate those processes. So for example, with the Winnipeg Arts Council, we have an online application process that's a little bit different. So you don't need to have approval to apply, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get on the phone and say, I'm thinking about doing this. How does this work? And, you know, a big part of our job is talking to all kinds of people to help them facilitate the process, let them know what's possible and what's not. In terms of accessibility supports, we, much like MAC, offer support for things like sign language interpreters, technicians, studio assistants, transcription services, or any kind of like specialized equipment rental, when those are tied to your project of what you're doing and they are sort of outside the realm of what a person without that disability would have to face. So we don't expect artists with disabilities to spend their grant money on things that other people don't have to worry about. And it's you know, if you get a grant, it is for your materials and your living costs and that kind of thing. So much like MAC, you do need to get in touch with us ahead of time to talk about how it works and what's possible and how we can help you put the best case together. So that's what we do. And I mean, I think what maybe would be a good idea is to find out what your interest is, Morgan, or if there's something specific that you want to know about what we do. And Martina and I have been at this long enough to know how to answer questions in unison. Is there anything that I can offer that you haven't heard yet?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually did the Art Beat residency, so I have a gallery show under my belt, and I think I'm getting the little art booklet in a few months, so I'm going to be published. So would that give me eligibility for the professional artist tag, or am I still emerging?
Those are two different things. Because you can be a professional emerging artist. But yeah, I think, the definition, there's no singular definition, and Martine, I think, would back me on that. There's no singular definition of what constitutes a professional artist, but it is somebody who's dedicating a good deal of time to their practice and, who is creating. Obviously, creating new work is key. Exhibiting it is also key. Getting out there, those are the kind of determinants that there are. So if you have not done a ton of that, then you are an emerging artist, and that's where you would fit into our categories.
Yeah. For us, the key is you have had some kind of public presentation. So in the visual arts, that would mean an exhibition. So you've had that. That's what we look for at the minimum. If you're a literary artist, you've had one poem published in a literary journal. It doesn't have to be huge, but then, yeah.
Any other questions or comments, Morgan? And also, this has been recorded, and we will have it available on YouTube for the participants that miss out.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, another thing was in terms of what type of things are available for, what type of things you can spend this grant money on. A big thing, the project I have in mind right now, I want to do, it's a lot of pottery stuff, right? It's a lot of sculpture. And for something like that, currently what I've been doing for ceramic sculptures, I would go to Sounding Stone, and you can pay to sort of have them fire things for you. But would it be could I get a personal kiln to really cut down on, travel and stuff like that?
We do allow some capital purchases, but they can't constitute the majority of your grant. So a kiln is a lot of money. I don't think you could swing that. But typically a ceramic artist for a creation grant, you'd be applying for all your material costs. So any clay you're buying, any tools that smaller tools that you're buying. And if you have to spend money to get it fired somewhere else, the cost of that, the cost of your studio rental, if you're you could even embed some living expenses in there, so you can take some time off your work and devote that. But just coming in to buy a kiln, that no.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dawn, would that go at whack?
I think it's I would have answered it the same way. There are definitely some things you can do when it becomes a one major piece of equipment. It's harder to do that. And the other thing, I guess, to keep in mind is that it's a competitive process, and it's a juried process. So while there's no denying the need or the logic behind your wanting to acquire a kiln.
Yeah, of course.
There's something about the compelling case that you have to make in a competitive, we get in our individual artist grant competition, we probably have between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 applications that are successful. So the juries really have to they really do work hard. And sometimes it's sometimes buying a piece of equipment is just not going to resonate the same way that what you're going to create with that equipment is.
Let's say I have mobility issues, right? I I don't drive, right? I would have to be taking the bus, things like that, where it's, becomes sort of an accessibility issue, especially like I said, for a large scale project, right? Would I be able to get money to, like, I don't know, get, like a taxi or something to drive me there or whatever, like stuff like that.
Yeah. And so for like WAC and MAC handle it slightly differently, but if you were funded to create a body, like some ceramic work, that would be your grant. And you would, on top of that, then apply for any additional costs related to your project up to a maximum of 2,000. That's in MAC. So you got a MAC grant. None of that grant has to be spent on your project. You can additionally apply for things like transportation, anything that's related to, that's connected to you completing this project. And at WAC, they handle it a little differently, but it's the same thing.
It's, yeah, and it would be, so the things like the studio rental would go into your grant application, but if you have to have a specialized means of getting to the studio, that's where we would look at those costs outside of what your actual grant is for.
Another thing in terms of like showing work, right? Getting a gallery to actually show your stuff. How do you approach that? Obviously, with the Art Beat residency, I didn't handle any of that. That was all done by the people there. So,
not sure what you're asking, Morgan.
Like it's it's obviously my responsibility to go and talk to like studios, see who will take me. I obviously should do that before I hand in my application and stuff, or no?
No, you do not need to have a confirmed exhibition in order to apply for funding to create work. That is not a requirement. It's great if you can say, I have a confirmed exhibition coming up in February 2024, but that's not required.
Okay.
We fund artists in the creation of their work. So if I wouldn't worry about that, but I would encourage you to connect with MAWA if you haven't already, Morgan. Okay. Mentoring Artists for Women's Art, MAWA. They're a wonderful, so I am actually making an assumption about your gender identity.
No, you're right.
I apologize. But anyone who's female identifying can go to MAWA. They're a wonderful organization. They support especially emerging artists, female identifying artists. You can become a member. They have a whole bunch of workshops and they have tons of resources to help you kind of get to the next level. They have member shows. They have a mentorship program whereby they might partner you. If you get into the mentorship program, they would partner you with a more senior artists that you would sort of work with over a period of time. It's a great organization. I highly recommend. Here, I'll put the name in the chat here.
And Morgan, I would suggest hooking up with the Edge Gallery as well, which is next door to MAWA. They have a ceramic studio in the back, and it's my understanding that they often rent kiln time as well, and they hold classes and things too.
Okay.
Awesome suggestion, Sasha.
And that is just, I think part of the larger question of finding out what's available in your community and taking advantage of it, right? So there are, not just for Martine and I, but there are all kinds of arts support organizations that are out there providing this, whether it's actual sort of tangible resources or just information, which can help you do that sort of, for lack of a better word, career development work and figure out where you should be looking for shows or who you should be talking to, or just going to openings and that kind of thing. Because that's oftentimes the way to get best informed. And I would just add as well that WAC is the same as Martine said. You don't have to have a show. People can make applications for research, or I want to fiddle around with a new technique, or I want to try, you know, throwing things at different temperatures or experimenting with different types of clay. And I just want to sit in the studio for 3 months and just figure out what I can make.
Oops.
That's the kind of thing that you can be supported for as well. In terms of, you know,
Sorry, I just totally realized I completely misspelled this. I'm going to do it again. You should keep going.
Sorry. I'll just finish by saying, yeah, you can be supported to create something non-specific.
Mhm.
It's good if you have an idea of what you're hoping to learn, but you don't have to have an outcome yet.
Okay.
You do have to have you have to know what it is that you want to achieve with this project, what it is that you're going to create. You can't just say, I want to create some art. You have to say specifically, I want to create a series of paintings, or I want to, you know, and the Edge Urban Art Center has they have a strong pottery and ceramic program. So yeah, it's a good suggestion on that.
Did you have any other questions or comments, Morgan?
Yes, yeah. What was it? The you can get grants for like residencies and stuff. I heard was Dominic said that.
Yeah, that's our professional development program. So we make small contributions towards travel.
Okay.
If you're participating in a residency. Pardon me. If your residency is part of a larger project, you can wrap it into a larger request, which I think is kind of the case with MAC. But yes, so if you are looking for those opportunities and you find them, there are ways that all 3 levels of public funder can support you in the costs of achieving them.
All right.
Let's not forget that the federal government is out there with some dollars as well. It's not just us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
Okay. Well, that seems to be it.
yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for this. This was a great help giving me a place to get started here.
Good for that, Morgan. That's great. And good luck.
Thank you.
And thank you, Martine and Dominic.
Yes.
And thank you, Tessa, for the translations. And we will be putting this up on YouTube through Creative Manitoba's channel and AANM as well.
I'm just putting my phone number in the chat. Will the chat be available to the recording?
I can just take a screenshot.
Yeah, I don't think it will be available.
Okay.
Yeah, my contact info is on all of our grant program information on our website, and Martine's is there too on the MAC website, I think. But we are here. That's what we do. This is what we do.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you, AANM and Creative Manitoba, and thanks, Tessa. Nice to see you again.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.